Hey, welcome to the Higher Ed AV podcast. My name is Joe Way. I am your host, and welcome to episode 1 of the. Oh, wait, no. Oh, wait, so I was just a little deja vu there. No, we have a good one for you today. We have a returning, super returning guest today. Everyone, this is episode number 2 of this 6-part series. Where I know I'm calling it the failure series, but really beyond that, it's about the overcoming challenges series. So hopefully you enjoyed last week when you got to hear from Raul, my former bar manager from Texas, and talking about how that experience of closing that business kind of shaped him and shaped me, kind of moving forward. And now today we're going to switch it, and we're going to start picking up a theme. I'm not telling y'all what's happening over these 6 weeks, but you're going to start to see a theme that I'm jumping around to different businesses, quote unquote, that I've had over the last 35 years. And this business is HETMA business, okay? Because a lot of you know, all right, well, we started this cute little organization now 7 years and 7 years, 1 month and 2 days ago. And I don't know how I just pulled that out, BC, but I just did.
I'm impressed, dude. I'm impressed.
And I'm calling it a business because it is, right? It's not just a cute little organization anymore. So to that, I'm going to welcome, for those of you who don't know, the most unknown man in the audiovisual industry. Please, BC, tell people who you are, what you do, and then we want to go into, and I'm just going to take this HETMA as a business idea that I don't think either of us saw. So please introduce yourself.
Sure. No, thanks, Joe. My name is BC Hatchett. I'm in my daytime, I'm the director of classroom technology at Vanderbilt University here in lovely Nashville, Tennessee. And then also I'm the other half of the co-founding duo of HETMA.
And of course, episode 1 of the Higher Ed AV podcast.
Episode numero uno of the Higher Ed AV podcast. By the way, Joe, that intro music it never gets old. As my kids say, it hits every time.
You know what? If I did one thing that was baller, it was that song, right? It is so catchy.
It is. I mean, through all the different rebrands and different graphics and color schemes and everything, that intro song has held true.
Yep. And now I've cut it down to a little 16-second little tidbit. It's perfect, a little video on top of it. You know what? For those who aren't watching and you're just listening, there is a YouTube version, and you can go and watch that. Okay, BC. What if we would have said 7 years ago that HETMA is a business?
I don't think either one of us would have really known what that was supposed to look like. I mean, at the outset, this was going to be this, hey, we have this idea about, advocating for the higher ed vertical, advocating for schools, and getting in there with manufacturers and be like, hey, we need this. You all need to build this. And how that went from that to where we are now, it's been entirely unexpected. Like it's had challenges and roadblocks and successes and not so successes that really, I don't think either one of us really foresaw.
Yeah. I love what you just said there. Successes and not so successes. I think I'm here. I'm going to do an honesty factor for a second. Yep. We were using the word, we're organic, and we're fluid, and we're, grassroots, whatever we were throwing out as kind of cover for we effed up.
Yeah. A lot.
Right.
A lot.
And that comes with that's part of this org growing. What do you feel like there's now to us, and I know you and I, and people don't know this behind the scenes, you and I text probably daily, maybe if not a billion times a day. I think we're each other's rant chart, just I need to get something out.
Yeah.
There's a weight behind the responsibility of the organization.
Massively.
How is that for you? Like when you sit there and realize, and I don't even want to just get into we're impacting people's lives, et cetera, et cetera. There's, we're taking money as sponsorships, and there's a responsibility to deliver. And sometimes that doesn't happen, and sometimes it does. What is that? How is that with you when we understand that there's a bigger thing we're having to do?
Well, it's, the AV industry is known for being a very close knit, small environment, right? Like everybody knows everybody. People move around to different companies, different schools, but the names and faces don't change, and reputation is everything. And
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I didn't really understand when we started HETMA was that, a lot of personal reputation would go on the line. And yeah, we'll have chairs and board members kind of come and go and naturally start, naturally end. And that's part of it. That's part of the life cycle of any organization. But at the end of the day, our name is the one that's going to consistently be associated with HETMA. So literally, as its successes impact us and the failures impact us both professionally and personally. And that's why it's, a very demanding thing at the end of the day to make sure that this is successful.
Yeah. One of the things I think is interesting, and this is kind of for the audience, is, the org is successful. The org is big. The org is known. A lot of people, we already know, we talk to the movers and shakers in the industry all the time, and they assimilate higher ed with HETMA, right? Like they are synonymous. That's amazing. That's an amazing accomplishment. But at the same time, we get it, you and I get these emails and texts all the time of going, dude, what's going on? I've got to go report to somebody else. I don't understand why we're not getting this. Why, like, what's going, and I don't know that, like, it's hard to put it into words that, when we started this, I didn't realize how much we would actually have to carry the weight of an entire vertical, almost like you said it personally.
Yeah.
Like
it's the gravity of it, really.
Yes, that's the word right there. The gravity of it all. And in our daily jobs, we're both leadership in our organizations, right? There's a gravity of running a vertical or running a department because people's lives are impacted. But the weight of a reputation of a vertical, I don't think a lot of people understand.
Right.
And I don't even know if I can put it into words. Can you try to put that into words?
Maybe. I mean, I think one thing that I always take it back to is that, we've always kind of promoted ourselves as, we're the official advocacy organization of higher ed, right? Like that's kind of the role that we saw that needed to be fulfilled. And we kind of stepped into it. Right. And the way that I kind of shape it and I look at it is that whenever we have successes, it helps all of higher ed. Like whenever, like you were talking about the approved thing, like whenever we have products that come out and our vertical tests it and it shows that it works and it's fantastic, then I think that's a net win. But also when we have instances when the ball gets dropped and we don't get, those deliverables turned around, or we don't get the feedback that, folks were wanting us to give, I look at it as, they kind of come back and go, well, higher ed still isn't there. Higher ed still is not as, up to the same standards as other pieces of the AV vertical, right? Because it took a long time for higher ed to finally get a seat at that table. I mean, we talk about it all the time. The infocomms of years past, where if you had that green education flag on your badge, you were ignored at every single booth, and that dynamic has shifted. And I think it's benefited everybody on both sides of the table. But it's, we've kind of assumed a role that we need to make sure that we live up to that responsibility.
Yeah. I love what you just said there. Because it is a responsibility, right? Like we argued for a place at that table, right? We were, and I will go out and say it, and I will defend this because other people will disagree, but I'm going to defend this one statement. HETMA and you and I, as individuals, are part of the huge reason that higher ed at all has a seat at that table. I'm sorry, I'm going to stand behind that. I'm probably going to create enemies within our own vertical by saying that. But if you go back and remember, I was the very first person to get up on stage and say, AV as a service must die. Yes, it was a gimmick. and literally got death threats and saying, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Literal death threats that we were interrupting the entire business channel.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember you calling me and telling me, "Oh my God, dude, I don't know what I just did, but I threw a grenade into the middle of something," because there was some backlash there. And I don't think people saw that, because they would, end users had always been kind of kept tucked away, and that's a nice opinion. Just continue to send us the POs and everything will be fine. Right.
Correct.
Now, and I hope you don't make any enemies, and I hope nobody took what you said personally, because it was not meant to be personal. It was not meant to step on other orgs. It was just, other orgs had different priorities within their groupings. And we saw that this was kind of maybe not necessarily a blind spot, but it was a blind spot that we needed to kind of step up and have our voice heard. And I think we have seen, what's that phrase, I'm terrible at phrases sometimes, but it's like rising tides lift all ships. That's the way I kind of look at HETMA. Like, we're trying to lift everybody to have the same authority to speak from that we feel like we do at this time.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good way of saying it, because I think when people come into the org now, or even the last few years, no one was there and remembers that. Like, when I just brought that out of going literal death threats, literal, we are going, if you keep doing this, you're going to be blackballed from this industry, right? And those were real things that we faced, right? And while there were other orgs, and there's great orgs, and we love all our sister orgs, it took balls to get out there and go,
this isn't working.
You're literally like, we're going to go and we're going to stand up, and hopefully all other, ships rose with us throughout higher ed. And now there is a seat at the table. Fast forward, flipping a CN Hall of Fame would have never happened, right?
Yeah.
The first customer ever, right? But it took that, and I think that people don't recognize it when they see it today of what that was, and I'll be honest, I don't know that I would have do it over, knowing how much, like, I'm thankful for our org. I think that it's great, but I didn't know how much it was going to take. And people who I thought were friends are now enemies. But then there's great friends I have now, right? But that's what happened if you think about people who and it's weird to think that to be successful means you have to burn bridges, right? If you remember, was it Educause a couple years ago, where I bought the hat, may the bridges I burned light away.
That's right, light my way forward. Yep. No, and it sucks. I mean, that's the part of this that I hate the most, is that personal agendas and some I don't maybe just professional jealousy has kind of gotten in the way a couple of times, and I hate that. But it happens in everything. It happens in every organization that I've ever been involved in, and it's part of human nature. But at the same time, when those doors close, sometimes they reopen. Hopefully they reopen, because that those were great relationships. But it also frees you up a little bit to start looking in other directions and finding new allies and new avenues and new pathways that you might not have seen otherwise.
Yeah. I purposefully picked a coffee mug this morning that because it's one that so it says, for those who can't see, it says, "No one cares, work harder." Right? When we have deliverables to those who depend upon us, whether they be our annual partners, our approved people who send stuff in, or even just our members looking to improve their careers. Do you think we're at a place where we can no longer just say we're a volunteer organization?
I think we've moved past it. I mean, I know we've chatted about it and texted about it, and I think it's our organization. The engine of it is volunteers, because like going back to one of the words you said, grow organically. That's kind of how we continue to strengthen our membership. Is we are a volunteer first organization, but even volunteer organizations are business at the end of the day. I mean, we've got, the second that we start having to have those sponsorships and partners with those professional deliverables that are used in their internal metrics, in their internal tracking, in their marketing materials, the script gets flipped, right? Like, we're kind of used to being on the other side of that table with like, well, you owe me this, you owe me that. And that was kind of I did get kind of taken aback the first time we got that email from one of the sponsors where something was starting to lag behind. Was, you all owe us this, you all do this, you all. I was like, oh wow, this is what the other side of that feels like. And that was a bit of an eye opener. That's when I was like, oh wow, now there is this is no longer just that cute little spunky startup. There is authority behind that voice.
I mean, we're a $6 million business.
Yeah, I know.
And that's, yeah, it carries a weight. So if you were to look back now, and we had to redo the org, it was just, it's Joe and BC. We're sitting there at that underground bar, wherever the hell that was.
Where was that? I don't even. Washington?
Was it? I'm trying to remember.
The ETC? Was it not ETC? Was it one of the RTMs?
I think it was. Yes, everyone left, and you and I somehow found another underground bar.
Like a little underground bourbon bar. Yeah.
What would you have done different in that moment or would you have, like, is there something to say? Because we looked back and went, we now, off of what we just said, that there's the weight of delivering for our people, both sides, right? Because we said, hey, we want to be we want to be the channel partner representatives. Well, we got it.
Yeah. Careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So in that moment, what would have been set up differently to ensure that happened?
I don't know. That's a rough one, because one of the things I do is I will sometimes look back and go, I wish I did this different, or wish I did that different, but whatever happened then led me to where I'm at now, regardless of what that circumstance is. But as far as anything I would have changed, I don't know, because I don't know if I had a good enough idea of where we would be at now to really kind of be able to forecast that.
Okay, like, if you could take advice and tell that person, think about this, make sure to pay attention to this, what would that have been then?
That in a few years, this is no longer going to be that spunky startup. You all need to tie your shoelaces tighter and work harder. Honestly, that's probably what it would have been, is you all need to, I think I would have probably treated this with a little bit more gravity, had that realization that this was a bigger thing sooner than what I did.
Yeah. Yes. I want to say it was a fun party on the way up. And I think maybe, if I'm going to sit there and go, okay, what if I were to tell myself that? Which is interesting, because, I did this tweet, in my career. I did this tweet, it was about a month or so ago, that I've started 9 businesses throughout my career. 3 still exist. One was acquired, one is still HETMA, and then the other one is my own personal investment stuff. That's 6 that failed. But so it's almost like I should have known better. I tell myself this at the moment, but it was, we look at our, Infocom booth, and we call ourselves the fraternity party in the back of the room. And I know, we've been told by even, a big thing, you shouldn't call yourself that, you shouldn't do this. We've been told by other people, like, but I think that the fun of it was our thing that helped it grow, right? Because we needed to be that thing for our, we're introverts, right? AV people in higher ed are introverts. They don't have a community. They're a lot of people how many people come to us and go, I found my people, right? I found, yet I would say for me, the advice I'd have given back to myself is, Joe, this was never intended to be your fraternity party. But you treated it that way. And that caused damage. I can't think of how many times I literally was, woke up the next morning after a late night out at one of our parties and it's like, who did I offend this time? What bridge did I burn this time? That I didn't have to, right? And I think that's where if I look at it and go, there were some bridges that needed to be burned because it took standing up for our vertical, like going back to the early, getting the death threats by standing up and saying.
Right.
But there were also some that didn't need to be because the leader of an organization like this shouldn't be a fraternity brother, even though you and I are fraternity brothers.
Yeah, no, that was a weird discovery back in the day.
Does that make sense?
It does. And again, man, like, that whole first few years of what we'll call it community building, because that's honestly what it was.
Yeah.
The first years of any kind of startup like that are always the wild years. They're always we're going to strike out and figure things out in this direction. Oh, that didn't work, so we're going to go in this direction, and it's going to be a party the entire time. But then when the realization hits that, oh crap, now we've got real work to do, that's when you kind of got to go, oh, well, it's time to tighten up the ship and move forward. And I think as an org, we've turned that corner and we're starting to do that. Yes, we still do the social events, the community building. We want to make sure that we're bringing in everyone, and everyone does when they go to these events and shows that they do have a good time. Because yes, all of our folks work extremely hard and they deserve to be able to have fun and kind of not have to be on all the time. But at some point, we can't do that because we have to be sure that the business of HETMA is continuing on.
Yeah. And so if anyone, I'm going to take some, there are people who, if I were to say, one of the cool things I've seen out of HETMA with the business is how many other of our members have kind of started their own ventures and said, hey, I want to do my own thing and all that, because they see that inspiration from us. Someone who, comes in, do you have advice for someone who wants to step out and advocate for themselves and what you've learned over the last 7 years? Like,
it's hard, like coming at it. Like it's weird, man. Like I'm one of the most introverted people you will ever meet. But over these past 7 years, it feels like whenever we have to go out and do stuff and meet with people, and that you kind of develop a different skill set. And I can almost feel myself shifting into that mode where like, okay, now I've got to go out and have conversations with strangers or folks that I don't know, or talk business or talk something. You've just got to be willing to break out of your shell and realize that it's not going to be perfect the first time. It literally is a skill like anything else that you have to develop. And the more that you do it, the better you become at it.
Yeah.
And it does not have to be perfect the first time. And in fact, it is not going to be perfect the first time. I remember the first ISE we went to, and we were in that room with, oh Lord, that organization just skipped my head. Please forgive me on that. PSNI.
Yeah.
And I was standing back in the corner talking to the two people that I already knew because that was comfortable. And you came over and you're like, what are you doing? You all need to be out here talking to people. This is what we're here for. And I was like, oh, okay. So now this is real. And then started to build that skill up a little bit to the point where now I do feel comfortable operating at that level. But it took years of trial and error to be able to figure that out.
Yeah, I was pissed.
I know you were pissed. I'd never seen you pissed before, but you were pissed.
But you know, I thank you for bringing that up because that was actually a transitional time, I think, for for Hired AV and HETMA. That was probably the moment. It was like 3 or 4 years ago now, right? Probably 4 years ago, I
4 years,
think.
yeah, 4 years ago.
Where we were no longer just the the little pet group. We were there to do business,
Yeah.
right? And I remember just going ballistic.
Yeah.
But
it was just, but I want people to understand, like, it wasn't like Joe just got offended at something. It was like, no, we were there to do business, and you're a business person, Joe. And there is a different persona there. You're a business person, Joe. And it honestly was kind of the kick in the ass that was needed to be like, oh wait, this is a thing. This is not just going to another country to have fun and be on a vacation. No, we've got to take care of business. And and I know we always talk about the word intentionality. I made the intentional decision then. I was like, okay, now we have to treat this seriously.
Yeah. Because, and it's funny because I think that if I were to maybe point back to a fork in the road,
that might have been it.
That might have been it, where enemies were made and friends were made.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Now that you're phrasing it like that, yeah, I think that was the genesis moment of the business piece of HETMA, the business piece of Higher Ed AV.
We're going to decide right here, right now is where this is going to transition, and we're going to have to treat it as a business, and we're here to build it for that reason.
Wow, that was a lot of regression to get back to that point. That was to kind of pinpoint the moment where it became a thing, I guess.
But it was, right? If you think back, that probably, because we were doing sponsorship, we were doing this, we were the cute kid in the room, we were. But
it was one of those things where, like, oh yeah, well here's a few dollars to put our name on your promotional material. Go have fun. That's kind of the way that it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it's evolved to be much more than that now.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because I just had a conversation just yesterday with, with a company that literally said, they're like, hey, how come you don't, blah, 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 you'd be a sponsor. Blah, blah. I'm like, you guys are expensive. And then at the end of the conversation, they're talking about doing the $50,000 sponsorship because it's okay. Where's the business model in this? Yeah. And it was like, okay, well, here's your ROI. Once you have to happen to talk ROI with people, and that's what we have to do. And we recognize that. And it was funny because I even talked to one of our other annual sponsors that was at the same event. And they're like, hey, how's it? And they're very happy with us and all this stuff, right? But I was like, look, we're here. What I need you to do is message me the second you don't think you're getting value.
Yeah.
Those are not conversations volunteer organizations have.
No.
Even though we're a volunteer organization.
Yeah, we are. And I need people also to understand, we're throwing out these numbers, right? Like the $50,000 sponsorship or the $6 million valuation or whatever. I need you to understand that's not money that's going into Joe or I's pocket. That's money that's going directly back into the membership. I mean, putting on booths at Infocom is not cheap. It is not a cheap endeavor. Putting on booths at ISE is not a cheap endeavor. Doing regional road shows, and even the nominal fee that it costs to do the approved program doesn't pay for the entire approved program. We still have costs that we have to have for that. So I mean, it's anything that we're getting, we're putting right back into the org, like the Prism scholarship. Like we that doesn't come free. We have to pay for that.
Yep. No, that's what I say. And I know Atkins considers better, but Infocom is like $350,000 expense.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how much it costs us to do Infocom.
No, that's a pretty big bill for a volunteer organization.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably more than the annual, revenue of most other organizations, right? Just for us to do 5 days.
Yeah. But you know what, at the same time, that is a HETMA specific thing that we do, but it benefits the entire higher ed ecosphere. Like the other sister organizations, that's there for them too. That's there for them to promote their organizations, their events, things like that. So it's not just, we're doing it as a celebration of all things HETMA. We're doing it as a celebration of all things higher ed. And I think that's very important to point out.
Yeah. If I want to talk, I'm going to say a little of, I'll do a little regret. Early on, we used to do a lot of partners, even though we support all orgs, right? We do booths at all orgs. We go out there. I also feel that as we grew, we became a separate entity. And I feel like we used to be more umbrella-ish. And you just brought this up. Like, our booth is there for all of higher ed. We show up places and advocate for all of higher ed. But I don't know if that's the perception anymore. It is. It's literally our mission statement. Every time something happens, every board meeting, and these are things people don't see, every board meeting, when we start going, what do we go back to? Who are we here for? Right? And you know who's a great advocate of that is Troy. Troy brings that up all the time.
Troy is right? The champion of that philosophy.
Like, when we're making a decision, who are we here for? And he brings us right back to that. I don't know that the rest of the industry would say that's the case as we've become our own quote unquote business org. How do we get back to that? Or you and I just so much in the business that maybe we are that and we just don't see it because we're the ones,
I think maybe, I don't know. I think, we do I guess the thing is we do the flashiest stuff, right? Like the double-decker booth at Infocom, the booths at ISE, there is flash to that. And I think, and I hope that it hasn't turned off anyone because, higher ed is known for being kind of low key. We're not traditionally putting ourselves out there. And I think that's one of the things that HETMA has kind of flipped the script on, is that we are now putting ourselves out there. And maybe we just need to have better, more frequent conversations with our sister organizations and just kind of reaffirm, we're doing this. Yes, we are doing this, but at the end of the day, we're doing this for you and hopefully with you.
Yeah.
We want you to be a part of that. We don't want any kind of, don't want you to feel like you're not invited to the group, because that's not the case.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point, because like there is a responsibility. We've already talked, right? As soon as you take sponsorship money, there's a legal responsibility to deliver, right? There's a moral responsibility to deliver. Once you've told a member, even though they're a volunteer member or just, we're a free org, there's a responsibility. And so we've had to, create our brand, quote unquote, whatever that means. But I do think that is a little bit at the detriment of bringing everybody else in. And I just like, and I think I said this on our last, what was it? The virtual conference back in February when we talked about, kind of where we go from here. And it's like, what's my one goal and my kind of wish is that we could get back to that part of it where it definitely, I'm almost going to answer the question myself that I asked you a little bit ago of what would I do different, is how could we have done both and kept the community part of the greater community, not our HETMA community, but the greater community at the same time as building the business. And I feel like at that moment, that moment we talked about where I went irate, split that. It was like, okay, now we're business focused. We're no longer just fun people being sponsored out to ISE. We're no longer just fun people that, we're going to get, it was, oh crap. And, I would say for me, and this is, I'm an addictive personality type of person. I'm an extremes person, kind of like you just said, right? We do flashy, Joe Way, fun and flashy, right? we do big because it makes noise.
Exactly.
And right. But it also divides at the same time, and there's a point where we had to make people look at us, just being the very first end user group ever to put a booth on Infocom floor. Right. And then we had a bunch of blow-ups, right? Like, and we had a DJ. Like, what do people do? Like, that was important because it said you need to stare at us. We're not coming in. We're going to grab your attention. And I feel like I do that at a detriment. Like, I'm good at that. I know how. I mean, what's the line I say to everybody? Always have a gimmick.
Always have a gimmick, and then lose the gimmick after you do it.
Yep, gimmicks have a start and a stop. Okay, and but that can also divide, and it has divided. There's no doubt about it. Even with conversations I had even last night, and it was even told to me, there's people that will never Joe that will never work with you again. And it sucks, but and these are people in higher ed. This isn't vendor stuff. This is higher ed people, because you're a jackass, Joe. When you get there, like, right? But did one need the other? Is one okay? Like, is there a point where, and I'm talking through my own therapy session, doctor. Here. Is there a point where you just have to say, you know what? F it. You know what? That if it caused some casualties, then that caused casualties. But the org needed that to happen.
It's one of those things where we look back at it, right? And it's you want to try to make everybody happy. Like, I at the end of the day, I'm an admitted people pleaser. I want people to be happy and satisfied and comfortable and, feel included. But Joe, it's a two-way street, right? Like, you're going to be you, Joe. We got to let Joe be Joe, right? That was one of the things we had talked about. It's not on you for them to be, not accepting of you or not accepting of HETMA because of you. It's on them. Like I said, it's a two-way street. They have to understand that there's other elements here that they might actually like. And that's, if they can't get over your flashiness, then that's a them problem, not a you problem.
Okay. All right. I would tend to agree with that. But is it? When you are the face of an organization, you and I started, we had this conversation, just this last week in texting. We set up the org that I was going to be the front man face of it. You did all the behind the scenes stuff. Did I also have a responsibility as well to not, right? Like, yes, I could garner attention and I could get but was there a different responsibility with that?
First of all, this would have been a very boring organization if I was the face. This thing would not be doing this right now. It would have been dead at the start. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think that you could have dialed it back? You know how to do this. Do you think you could have changed your philosophy, the way that you operate?
Absolutely.
You do?
Yeah. Because if you go back, and and I think there's things that people don't know, or vinyl, screw it, I'll just say it. I was going through a lot of personal things. And, I found my out in travel and alcohol. And I had to get through that. Thankfully, I'm through that. But it was also timed at that same time. If you go back to, the origins that we already talked about, where, I got up on stage and, got my death threat. I wasn't going out and partying out. I was still the social person and I was hanging about, like, that's who I am. But there was more of a balance. I think there was a point where, because of personal stuff going on in my life, and I was using travel and notoriety and the alcohol and, Joe Way speaking here and traveling, I think I didn't use tip the scales in the right. I let one out by. So the answer is, yeah, I probably could have dialed it back.
So I remember that time period. I remember us having some conversations during that time period. on a personal level, I don't include that with what, you know, people say that Joe Way is a jackass. Like, I mean, where there, you know, I don't necessarily count that as kind of like the building years of HETMA, because that was like about a 2-year period, right? We've had many, many more years. If someone was offended about what happened during that time period, I mean, I can understand it. But if somebody was offended about the way that we started kind of building the brand and building the community and getting things lifted and getting that attention that you were talking about, then that feels like it's a different situation. It feels like that's something that they need to, you know, accept and be like, well, yes, you know, that's just not for me. And that's okay. And that's okay. If that is not for you, it's not for you. But the personal stuff you were going through, it's, you know, that was a different time period, I think.
Yeah. Well, I just think it was also just really timed with when HETMA really started taking off.
Yeah.
And it was hard. Like most people, and I think rightly so, you know, what I did, you know, Joe Way personally was also it naturally attached to HETMA.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That was like, and I didn't tell people I was going through personal things at the time and what was going on in my personal life. Had I, then maybe people would have understood more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It was, but you know, I was also just taking things out. And that's, you know, and I guess that's the lesson for people too here is, you know, that to me was a failure time, is realizing that, you know, everyone is a brand. Mm-hmm. And there is no, this is my work hours and you clock off. And then what happens in personal, like everything is together and you will have to be held accountable to everything that happens mm-hmm. in yourself. And that goes to your, you know, I mean, to be honest, like what I do personally, people will assimilate to UCLA mm-hmm. and go, that's a you know, and it shouldn't, but it is. Mm-hmm. That what we do has direct impact on us, on the organizations we're representing. That's a new phenomenon in the world, mm-hmm. right? That comes with social media branding, right? And I know that, you know, and I think that's one of the lessons I've learned is, okay, HETMA's gotten so big, and this is that everything I do is a representation of HETMA, even mm-hmm. though it shouldn't be, and people should see this as an organization of 10,000 people. Any of us who are on the board and the chairs, what we do is a representation on HETMA. Mm-hmm. Representation of HETMA. It is. That's heavy.
It is. And to be clear, that's not exclusive to HETMA. That's for any organization that you're a part of. Like that goes to our sister orgs as well. It's that same thing. Anything you do is seen and, you know, and associated with the organization that you're a part of.
Yep.
It's just ours happens to be bigger, so there's a little more of a order of magnitude there.
Yep, 100%. All right. I said this was going to be a 35-minute thing, and we're at 43 minutes, and we didn't even do the rapid round yet. So I'm going to do a quick rapid round.
Okay, quick rapid round.
This is a quick rapid round. We're playing the game hot or not. Okay.
Oh, okay. I think
hot or not. Okay. Hot or not. We're going to do 2 rounds: the AV round and the leadership round.
Okay.
AV round. Hot or not. BYOD only in learning environments.
Hot, scorching.
Yes. All right. No computers for you.
Please I hate them. Give me BYOD. Makes my life simpler.
AI in cameras and microphones is a scam and rebranding, or legit?
Scam.
Yeah. You know it. Because we've always had tracking, and they just called it AI. We've had camera tracking. We've had loads.
Years.
Yep. All right. Classroom standardization over personalization.
Hot, because it has to be.
Yep. All right. Oh, okay. Here's a good one. By the way, I'm pulling this off ChatGPT. All right. QR codes in rooms or phone number over a phone number.
Give me your phone number.
Okay. All right. But what if the QR code goes to like a training page and the phone number's at the top of it?
Yeah, but well, I'm saying that from my own experience. My folks, my campus, they like to talk to people. Like they're not going to take the time to scan a QR code and be like, okay, well, here's this training. Da, 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 da. They want to say, okay, the projector didn't come on. I got to call someone so I can get them here in 2 minutes so my class can go off.
All right. All right. All right. USB-C over HDMI.
USB-C.
Okay, so you're hot on that one.
Very hot. Very hot.
All right. There we go. All right. Those are fine. Yeah, ChatGPT could do better today. All right, we're going to leadership.
Okay.
Hot or not? Daily feedback over annual review.
Give me annual review over daily feedback.
Okay, now you got to go into that one.
Okay. Reason I say that is that, yes, I agree. Course corrections are needed, right? If you're getting, and this is just me, like this is my personality. Other people, you can do your own thing. My personality is if I'm getting daily feedback, that's going to be too much information for me to be able to assimilate and make changes on. Like I can kind of take the temperature between reviews. But, you know, if you're giving me something daily, I'm going to be overwhelmed and not be able to be like, okay, I'm over going to correct and I'm under going to correct. And I'm going to, you know, not going to go in the direction I need to go. But if you tell me that, hey, your compass is pointing a little off between these check-ins, I'll know I need to make iterative adjustments.
Yeah. All right. All right. I'll take that. I'll take that. All right. Hiring attitude over skills.
I'll take attitude over skills any day of the week.
Yeah. All right. That is correct. Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. This is a good one. All right. How do ChatGPT did not do a great job in actually wording these the right way. They're just kind of listed, so I'm kind of making up. All right. Leaders who say they are wrong but don't change.
If you're a leader that says that you're wrong and you don't change, are you really a leader?
Okay, but
I mean, I can see some scenarios where people are like, yeah, I'm wrong, but this is just the way that I run my shop. Deal with it. Like I understand that philosophy, but I also kind of treat it where I'm going to meet my staff where they're at too. And then, you know, we can come to a disagreement, and then ultimately I have to tell them, you know, ultimately the responsibility rolls up to me. I'm making the decision. If it's wrong, it's wrong. I have to deal with it. But yeah, I think it's a little more situational than just, you know, somebody saying they're wrong, but deal with it.
So, but it could go to the, you know, I'm the one who has the experience here.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's, you know, that almost goes full circle around to our entire conversation.
It does. It does. I mean, there are times where I know like my folks get frustrated with me because they're wanting to continue to push an envelope, like push something. And I'm like, no, we you know, we can't do that. Our customers aren't quite ready for that yet.
Yep.
It will be soon, but not quite yet. So.
All right. A couple more. Finally, ChatGPT did a good job here.
Good job.
All right. Here we go. Leaders need to also be experts in the field that they're leading.
Experts, no. Experienced, yes.
Okay. So know how to talk to your people, know the general thing, but don't actually need to know the stuff.
I mean, I can know it from the 20,000 foot view, and I can know when my staff members are kind of heading in the right track, wrong track. But if you're wanting me to get down into the minutia of some of these technical details, I can't do it. It's my job to know whether or not we need to get down to the technical minutia, or if we just can say, yeah, let's pick this thread and see where it goes.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Being hot or not, being liked is overrated if you are respected?
Hot. I would go with that. I would take respect over someone liking me any day of the week.
Yep. Yeah, I like that one. I like that one. And to be honest, that's kind of where I get, I have the hard time because I want to be liked. I want people to like
Well,
me.
everybody wants to be liked, but I think, I think the respect goes back to something different, right? Like if someone likes you and then, well, let's take it back to the being wrong question, right? If someone likes you and then you're wrong, well, they can be like, oh, well, I don't like that person anymore. And then there's a breach. But if you've got someone's respect and you're wrong, they're coming from a place of, oh, well, they at least know what they're talking about. I respect them as a professional or respect them as a person. So even though it was the wrong decision, it doesn't change our relationship.
Yep, 100%. Yep, I like that. I like that. We are at the top of the hour, so I don't know if you have a 9 o'clock meeting that I'm holding you from, but I just want it really quickly just to close it out. Looking back, can you, it's an advice or a question, but what are those, I want to almost say, is it, what's your advice for it? Is it worth it? Like get ready for those who want to step out and advocate for themselves. Because that's the point of these 6 weeks, right? I'm talking about areas where these were difficult, but they're worth it. What is that advice for people, and what should they think about now? Almost going back to that question of, if we could have told ourselves sitting there in that little bourbon bar. But what's your advice for someone who goes, okay, I want to step out, I want to advocate, whether it's just advocating for I need a raise or advocating for, hey, I just want to start this next thing. What is that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because we had this conversation at ISE, because it's something that even I still struggle with. But it's don't be afraid to step out and do it. Recognize at the start that it's not going to be 100% smooth. It's not going to always work. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to change things up on the fly and get outside your comfort zone. But I can say that if you're willing to take that risk, it 1,000% is worth it. I mean, I've gotten to go to a lot of cool places and see cool things, but more importantly, I've got a lot of great friends now that I never would have made if I hadn't accepted that phone call 8 years ago from you about this quirky little idea that you had.
And we're going to go full circle this Saturday.
We are. We are. We're taking it back to the start.
I will see you at LAX airport, the very same place I met you the first time.
I know. That's wild, man. That's wild the way the world works. Yep.
Crazy. Well, BC, how can people get a hold of you and find you? Should they like to connect?
Should they so want to? You can find me on I'm on X or Twitter at BC Hatchett. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can feel free to email me at bc.hatchett@vanderbilt.edu or bchatchett@hetma.org.
Awesome. And everyone, of course, you can find me at Josiah Way on all of the socials. And of course, as always, none of the opinions expressed here are necessarily those of our respected organizations, schools, partners, sponsors, anyone who wants to sue us. Okay, if you want to sue us, it's had nothing to do with you. It was just a random coincidence.
We're not talking about you at all.
Random coincidence, and that's it. And as always, if you did not like these opinions, there might be better ones next time. We will see you all, and thank you for listening.